Hey, welcome back to the Superhuman Resilience Project, the show where we stop pretending that leadership is about being the toughest person in the room and start talking about what it really means to lead humans as humans. I'm your host, Kara. I'm a veteran corrections professional, trauma informed leadership coach, and someone who absolutely has tried to push through, soldier on, whatever you want to call it, through the things that required at minimum a snack and a nap. Today, we're talking about trauma informed leadership, what it is, why it matters, and how we can build cultures where people don't have to armor up just to get through the day. And before we go any further, let me say one thing very clearly. Leadership does not require a title, it's not about your rank. It doesn't require stripes or bars or a corner office or anything of those things. Leadership is influence. It is presence. Leadership is how you show up in the room, not what's printed on your business card. So whether you're a supervisor, a new recruit, a seasoned officer, a teacher, a parent, or an official or unofficial emotional support human in the workplace, this episode is for you. Let's talk about the leadership model that many of us inherited, especially those in public service, corrections, military, law enforcement, healthcare, and other high stress fields. The old model just was, the key points: don't show emotion, don't ask for help, don't question the system, don't slow down, don't take a break, and definitely don't let anybody see you struggle. Basically, be a robot. Be productive, be never tired, and be a robot. So here's the kicker. This model wasn't limited to people with rank. Everyone from the rookie to the chief was expected to perform the same emotional gymnastics. But the truth is, this model wasn't built for humans. It was built for efficiency. It was built for survival. It was built for a world where we didn't understand trauma or stress or the nervous system. And it created generations of leaders who believed that the only way to lead was to be unshakable, unbreakable, and emotionally unavailable. Spoiler alert, that's not leadership. That's exhaustion. Let's give the old model some context. It didn't come from nowhere. First of all, there was a survival culture. In high-risk professions, emotional suppression was seen as necessary. If you were in a dangerous situation, you didn't have time to process feelings, and that is totally understandable. The problem is that culture stayed that way even when the danger wasn't present any longer. So the second factor we got to look at is that limited neuroscience. Before the 1990s, trauma was greatly misunderstood. We didn't have the ACEs study or polyvagal theory or research on chronic stress and cortisol, data on burnout and moral injury. We didn't know that trauma lives in the body and not just in the mind. The third factor, stigma. Mental health was seen as a weakness. Asking for help was seen as incompetence, and leaders were expected to be stoic and self-sacrificing. The fourth factor, efficiency over humanity. The industrial era taught us the value of productivity over anything else. People were treated like replaceable parts, not complex humans with nervous systems. So the old model wasn't malicious, it was outdated. Before we go any deeper, let me explain what ACEs is, because understanding ACEs is foundational to trauma-informed leadership. The Adverse Childhood Experience Study, which is an ACE, Adverse Childhood Experience Study, was conducted by the CDC and Kaiser Permanente, and it identified 10 categories of childhood adversity, including psychological, emotional, and sexual abuse, psychological and emotional neglect, and household dysfunction in the forms of substance abuse, mental illness, incarceration, domestic violence, and divorce. Now, what this study found was that 61% of adults have at least one ACE. 1 in 6 have 4 or more. Higher ACE scores are linked to increased risk of chronic illness, mental health challenges, substance abuse, and difficulty regulating stress. So here's the important part for leaders. ACEs don't just stay in childhood, they shape how we as adults respond to stress, authority, conflict, and uncertainty. And ACEs don't magically disappear when someone puts on a uniform or walks into a workplace. Now let's talk about why trauma prevalence is significantly higher in service-related occupations: military, corrections, law enforcement, EMS, healthcare, etc., social work, education. There are 3 major reasons. The first is pre-existing trauma. Research shows that people with higher ACE scores are more likely to enter helping professions. Why? Because many of us grew up wanting to be able to protect others from what we had experienced. So service professions naturally attract people with higher baseline trauma exposure. Now, the second factor is occupational trauma. The jobs that people go for involve violence, crisis, human suffering, high stakes decision making, chronic stress, moral injury, and exposure to traumatic events. This adds layers of trauma on top of whatever someone is already carrying or carried. And number 3, cultural reinforcement. The suck it up culture discourages processing your feelings, debriefings, seeking help, taking breaks, or admitting that you're overwhelmed. So trauma compounds instead of being metabolized. This is why trauma-informed leadership isn't optional in these fields, it's essential. Here's what the science gets validating. Trauma is common, not exceptional. Most adults have trauma. In service professions, the rates are exponentially higher. Stress impacts performance. Chronic stress affects your ability to make decisions, emotional regulation, memory, and impulse control. Not because people are weak, but because their nervous system is overwhelmed. Psychological safety improves outcomes. Harvard research shows that teams with psychological safety perform better, innovate more, make fewer errors, and have higher retention. Leaders regulate the room. Your nervous system sets the tone. If you're calm, others can be calm. If you're dysregulated, the whole room feels it. This is biology and not personality. Okay, now we've talked about the science. Let's talk about what it means for leadership. Because knowing trauma is common is one thing. Leading in a way that honors that reality is another. Here's the truth. Trauma-informed leadership is not a philosophy. It's a practice. It's a way of showing up. It's a way of being. So let's break it down to what that looks like in action. 1, when we lead with nervous system awareness, not assumptions. When someone is short or withdrawn or reactive or overwhelmed, the old model said they're being disrespectful, they're not motivated, or they're not a team player. The trauma-informed model says their nervous system is activated, something feels unsafe to them, and let's get curious and find out instead of just being judgmental. This doesn't mean we excuse harmful behavior. It means we understand why it is happening so we can respond to it more effectively. Second, we slow down the pace of communication. Trauma speeds the body up. Leadership slows down the room. In practice, this looks like speaking with clarity instead of urgency, giving people time to process information, checking for understanding without condensation, and repeating key points without frustration. When leaders slow down, the team's nervous system slows down. Number 3, we create micro moments of safety. Safety isn't built on grand gestures, it's built in consistent behaviors. Examples include things like saying good morning and actually meaning it, or letting people know what you expect in a meeting, giving a heads up before delivering feedback, acknowledging effort, not just the outcomes, keeping your tone steady even when the situation isn't. These micro moments accumulate, and they tell the nervous system, you're okay here. Number 4, we regulate ourselves before we lead others. Now that's a big one. Trauma-informed leaders pause before responding. They take a breath before entering a room. They notice when they're dysregulated themselves. They step away when they need help. And they repair when they make a misstep. Because leadership isn't about being calm all the time. It's about being responsible for the energy that you bring into the space. The 5th one, we replace command and control with clarity and collaboration. Trauma-informed leadership doesn't mean we stop making decisions. It means we stop making decisions in a vacuum. In action, this looks like, here's what's happening, here's why it matters, here's what we need to happen. What are we missing? And how do we get there together? This builds trust. This builds buy-in, and it builds resilience. We normalize humanity. This is where the culture shifts. Trauma-informed leaders say things like, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to not be okay today. You're not in trouble. Let's talk through it. And when leaders do this, the entire team breathes easier. Number 7, we understand that behavior is communication. Trauma-informed leaders don't just ask what's wrong with them. They ask what happened to them. What's happening inside them? What do they need to feel safe enough to function? This shift alone transforms workspaces. Number 8, we lead with transparency. Trauma hates uncertainty. Uncertainty activates the nervous system. Trauma-informed leaders explain decisions, share timelines, communicate changes early, and tell people what's coming next. Transparency is not oversharing, it's reducing unnecessary fear. Number 9, we use humor, the healthy kind. Humor is a nervous system regulator, and it lowers cortisol and it builds connection. Trauma-informed humor sounds like we're all doing our best with the 3 brain cells we have left today. Or, if you need a snack before we start, I fully support that. It's humanizing, not minimizing. Number 10, we understand that leadership is relational and not positional. This is the heart of it. Trauma-informed leadership is not about rank. It's about relationship. It's about influence. It's about how people feel when you walk into the room. And that's something anyone at any level can practice. Now let's step back for a minute and talk about stigma, because this is where the real work begins. For decades, we've been taught that emotions are unprofessional, that stress is weakness, that asking for help is failure, and struggling is shameful. But trauma informed leadership flips that script. It says emotions are data, stress is a signal, asking for help is strength, and struggling is human. And when leaders, formal or informal, model this, the stigma starts to crumble. So, what does breaking the stigma look like in action? Leaders go first, not oversharing and not with trauma dumping, but with honesty. I've been overwhelmed lately, so I'm taking a mental health day. Or, I don't have all the answers, but I'm committed to figuring out those answers with you. Or, I made a mistake and I want to repair that. When leaders go first, others feel safe to follow. Number two, we celebrate growth and not perfection. Trauma informed cultures don't say, why aren't we there yet? Instead, they say, look at how far we've come. Let's build on this. You're learning and that matters. Or even we're learning and that matters. Growth becomes the goal, not performance, not image, and not perfection. Number three, we create environments where feedback is safe. Trauma informed cultures have a vibe where feedback is not a threat, it's a conversation. It sounds like, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I need, how can I support you, and what do you need from me? Those types of questions build trust instead of fear. Number four, we make help seeking normal. This is huge. When leaders use EAP, take personal time off, go to therapy, ask for support, and set boundaries, it tells everyone else you're allowed to be human here. Number five, we build cultures where people can grow without hiding. Trauma informed leadership isn't about coddling, it's about creating conditions where people can stretch, learn, and evolve without fear of punishment. It's about saying you're safe, you're supported, you're capable, you belong, and I believe in you. And when people feel that, they rise to the occasion. And here's the thing, everything we've talked about today is just the beginning. Because trauma informed leadership isn't just about how we treat others, it's about how we treat ourselves. Next week, we're going to be diving into what self regulation actually looks like, how leaders can build nervous system resilience, the difference between coping and healing, and the daily practices that make trauma informed leadership sustainable. If today was about understanding the landscape, next week's about building the toolkit. So take a breath, take what landed, let the rest simmer, and come back next week ready to go deeper. Because this journey, this shift towards trauma informed leadership, is how we build workplaces, families, and communities where people don't just survive, they grow. Now, before I close today, I want to just talk for a moment about the Missouri State Highway Patrolman who died last Thursday. I knew him. I had a flat tire on my way home from work one day, and he was very kind to me and helped me change that tire. And I remember thinking to myself how impressed I was that he didn't just sit in his car blocking traffic for me so that I would be safer. He showed me humanity and what that meant. On Thursday, he took his own life in his squad car on a county road just off Highway 63. I wish we could have reached him, or he would have known about us, or that he would have sought help. If anyone out there is feeling the pressure, if you're feeling that pain that won't go away and you're tired, please reach out to me. Reach out to 988, the crisis line. Reach out to the National Suicide Crisis Line. Reach out to someone and let them know how you're feeling. We need you here. Just want to say a prayer for his family, both blood and blue, that they can find peace in this tragedy. So as we close today, if you're listening to this and you're thinking that you might need some help, or maybe you could grow from someone to talk to, then please reach out. Remember, trauma-informed leadership isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about choosing a different way forward, a way that honors the nervous system, a way that honors your humanity, a way that builds resilience instead of demanding it. This is the Superhuman Resilience Project. I'm Kara, and I'll see you next time. Until then, be strong enough to stand on your own. Be wise enough to recognize when you need help. And be brave enough to ask for it.